Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. This is the Maverick News Channel.
And hello, this is Brendan Kennedy, your co-host, and it is a foggy Tuesday evening here in Southern Ontario, but it is good to be here, and still kind of bitter about our YouTube channel, but we're going to be all right.
No, we're just fine, and we are the Freedom Reporters.
Yes.
Exercising free speech. YouTube doesn't like it. We've been banned for a week, so 6 more days of YouTube jail, and then we'll be back in full force. But it doesn't really matter that much, I don't think, because we are making progress in expanding out to other platforms. We have an audience on Facebook. It accelerated in growth yesterday, I think largely because of the YouTube censorship banning us for a week. And we're now on Cloud Hub with videos that we upload after the broadcast. We will soon be going live there as well, I think, as long as we can figure out the technology on their end. And I was encouraged today. We uploaded our first video, which was the video from last night. And we were getting traction on that. We were getting views. So there's an audience there. We're doing fine. We had a sizable audience across all of our other platforms yesterday. So YouTube is what it is. Happy to get back on there, but I'm not going to water down my words.
Can't shut us up and can't shut us down.
That's right. Just too resilient in the face of tyranny.
Yes.
And we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Yes, so lots of interesting developments.
Lots of stuff. We're going to talk about this Roe v. Wade issue, which has resurfaced. It's the issue that just won't go away. It just keeps coming back and coming back. And it will likely never, ever be fully resolved.
Yeah, I highly doubt it ever will, too. I don't know. It's one of those subjects that I don't know. We'll get into it momentarily. I don't want to.
We have other issues as well that we're going to touch on. We're going to touch again on the Canadian federal leadership race for the Conservative Party of Canada, because a couple of candidates have been denied verification, which means even though it appears they met all of the qualifications and all the criteria to run as candidates for the leadership of one of Canada's most powerful political parties, they've been denied. So we're going to talk about what that means, why that has happened, why a lot of conservatives in Canada are very upset about it, and I think what it will mean in a negative way for the Conservative Party of Canada in the long run. We'll talk about that. There's going to be more coming down the pipe on that issue over the next few days. Plus, we're going to touch on a story about NATO jets being scrambled to intercept Russian jets near NATO airspace. Touch on that. We're going to show you a brief clip of Joe Biden's gaffes, which have again cost him more credibility in the court of international public opinion. And today, Joe Biden toured the Lockheed Martin factory in Troy, Alabama. We're going to drop in on that. And in Ontario, Canada, our province here, I'll let Brendan tell you what kicked off today.
Yeah, so the writ has dropped for the Ontario provincial election. So that means we'll be looking for a new premier. for folks who watch and join us in the United States, that's essentially like our governor, is what that would mean. And so, yeah, there's going to be lots of political mudslinging here for the next month. We have a very short election term. I believe June 2nd is our voting day, the last day to vote. And there is one other important story that we have to cover today. It is we do have NDP, that's New Democratic Party, MP Taylor Backrack is pushing forward a private members bill. It's looking like it is probably going to go through, but it will essentially allow individuals who are 16 and up to begin voting. And I take some issues with this, and we're going to go a little bit down the rabbit hole by taking a look at the bill, looking at comments from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, and as well as what it could possibly mean for our democracy.
And if we have time, I'd like to revisit this whole Ministry of Truth thing again, just briefly, because the Department of Homeland Security in the United States has issued a media release on its website saying that they're going to be, this is how I interpret it, they're going to use censorship to protect your free speech, which sounds like Justin Trudeau doublespeak, but that's what they're telling us. So
you know what, Rick Walker, why don't we touch on that one first, because that should be an easy one to bang out of the way really quick. And we promise you we're not going to play that god-awful TikTok song again for people at home. So you could thank us for not desecrating your eyes and ears with that baloney.
Okay, so sure, we can touch on this.
Yeah, it sounds like an easy, quick one. We did talk in depth about this yesterday, and we also touched on this last week as well, I think Thursday, once it was announced. So there's going to be some interesting stuff coming out of this, but it's not going to be good. Just to recap for everybody, me and Rick Walker have stated this is something that's going to add to censorship in Western Northwest in North America and in the western parts of the world. And yeah, there's going to be some big problems with censorship coming down the pipeline for all of us. This already impacts England in a very heavy way. This is going to be impacting the United States heavily, and Canada has its own censorship and online regulation bills currently in the pipeline, and you all know our thoughts on that. That's going to be passed without question due to the NDP Liberal Alliance. And without further ado, take it away, Rick Walker.
So, of course, this is what we're referring to here is the Department of Homeland Security Disinformation Governance Board. What this is really about is controlling the distribution of information. It's about censorship. It's largely targeting social media channels, platforms, trying to control the flow of information. It's, in my view, extremely dangerous what they're doing, and it's huge. It actually stretches far beyond the internet, because the government, which doesn't really have the constitutional right in the United States to censor your speech because of your constitutional rights in the United States, they're really forming public-private partnerships with social media platforms and actually controlling the social media platforms and getting them to do their bidding as it relates to controlling information and censoring what is posted. And it's aimed at you, the viewer, the consumer, at anyone who might be posting online. It's also aimed, I think, at upcoming elections, but it stretches far and wide. This is an all-of-government approach. It isn't just the federal government. It isn't just the Department of Homeland Security. They have integrated all government structures and institutions into this, and the private sector, especially especially social media platforms. And this really does give the government the ability to control information, or what they're saying is they're going to be focusing on disinformation. So, of course, there's been a big backlash from the public and from some media because this is a threat, obviously, to free speech. So today, the Department of Homeland Security, I'm not sure if it was today, it might have been yesterday. Anyway, they posted this so-called fact sheet on the Homeland Security website. It says fact sheet, DHS internal working group protects free speech and other fundamental rights when addressing disinformation that threatens the security of the United States. So this thing goes on to say that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is charged with safeguarding the United States against threats to its security, including threats exacerbated by disinformation. Disinformation, which is false information that is deliberately spread with the intent to deceive, mislead, can take many forms, they say. When it comes to DHS's work, the department is focused on disinformation that threatens the security of the American people, including disinformation spread by foreign states such as Russia, China, and Iran, or other adversaries such as transnational criminal organizations and human smuggling organizations. Such malicious actors often spread disinformation to exploit vulnerable individuals and the American public, including during national emergencies. So they say that for nearly 10 years, different agencies across the Department of Homeland Security have worked to address disinformation that threatens Homeland Security. And they give some examples here of what they've done in the past and trying to tell you what they're going to be using it for in the future. But I don't think this is entirely accurate. U.S. Customs and Border Protection counters disinformation that cartels and human smugglers spread to migrants to persuade them to cross our southwest border illegally. CBP's work includes its Say No to the Coyote campaign, making clear that entering the United States illegally is a crime. And then they say in 2012, during Hurricane Sandy, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, corrected false information about the safety of drinking water and the location of shelters to protect and serve the hurricane's victims. FEMA has since built capacity to identify and respond to false information during major disaster responses, including Hurricanes Maria and Ida, during which FEMA provided critical information to protect disaster survivors from targeted scams. FEMA also ensures that disinformation campaigns do not prevent Americans from accessing federal aid during and after disasters. I'm sure this is exactly why they're doing it. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, works with private sector stakeholders to mitigate the risk of disinformation to U.S. critical infrastructure, work that has continued in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That's why we need more censorship, because Russia invaded Ukraine. It goes on and on like this. But if you go in and you really read all of the documents related to the creation of this new agency, the ramifications, the power that is here is much more far-reaching than this. Because in the document, they connect the spread of this kind of information that they're trying to control, they connect it to terrorism. And they're referring to this information as MDM, 3 types, which they don't actually fully address in that news release, which they've posted. MDM, misleading information or misinformation, they call it misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. So 3 different types. Misinformation is information they describe as false information, but not created with the intention of spreading harm. So it's misleading, false information. So you post something, maybe you think that it's correct, but it isn't. But it isn't intentional, or maybe you know that it's not correct, but you posted for whatever reason they say that it's not intentional. So that's misinformation. Disinformation is false information, which is deliberately created and then distributed. That's how they define disinformation. And then there's malinformation, which they say is malicious truth. So this one's really important because right in the documents, they define this as being information. They say malinformation is based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. So even if you spread truth, if they decide, if the government, which is the self-proclaimed arbiter of truth, I guess, if they decide that what you're saying is misleading, it can still be truth. But if they say that it's misleading, then you would be guilty of spreading malinformation. This is extremely troubling because if you really look at the three definitions, it basically encompasses any kind of information, all information. It doesn't matter what you post. If the government, this government agency, this Department of the Disinformation Governance Board, which many are calling the Ministry of Truth, which of course is giving a nod to George Orwell and his dystopian predictions of the future, which seem to be coming true. If they deem anything you say to be counter to the national interests, if they think that it's trying to undermine the government in any way, government narrative, government programs, government infrastructure, government anything, if they think it's an attack on the government, then you can be accused of and convicted of crimes, I guess, under this department of or this board, this disinformation governance board. That the really scary thing is that not only can you be accused of and convicted of spreading this kind of information, if you are convicted or charged, then you would be charged as and convicted as potentially a terrorist because of the way this is all written and connected within all of the definitions in this government bureaucracy. That's what they're doing. So really, you see, and this is hypocritical because if you think back, the government and the Democrats when they were going after Trump using their Russian narrative, and that all turned out to be false information.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was convicted of anything with regard to that.
Joe Biden campaign, Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, and several other high-ranking White House officials under the Joe Biden leadership have all come out and said that Hunter Biden's laptop was all a fake story. And they said anybody who believes that is following Russian disinfo and blah, blah, blah. And now they say, oh, well, Joe Biden doesn't, or Hunter Biden doesn't work for the White House. And it's like, okay, now you're saying that. And I think that this is going to really stifle critics of the government. And a big part of it is, like, even looking at online meme culture, we see a lot of memes that come out, and they look a lot like, they look a lot like things like this. It's going to put a stifle to all things like this. And this is, people are allowed to criticize the government with stuff like this. I think it's funny, but that's me. If you don't like it, scroll on, whatever. But this whole thing is in point designed to stop people from criticizing the government, and all the government will have to do is say, well, you're creating disinformation. And then they'll get people on this governance board to do so. And then there you go.
It does put it does have a chilling effect on free speech, even if they don't enforce it, even if they didn't enforce it. Just knowing that it's there and you could be accused of being a terrorist for posting something like that, that makes people think twice. And in some cases, it prevents people from really speaking their mind. It's a serious issue, folks. And we're seeing the same types of initiatives worldwide, at least in Western governments. We're seeing it happen right now with Bill C-11 in Canada, pending censorship legislation, which will likely be approved within the next couple of months. So that's, it's a real concern, and that will impose extreme controls over the internet. But the laughable thing here, predictable, I would say, but laughable, is this news release that they posted, this page on the Homeland Security website saying that they're going to protect your free speech with this new censorship initiative, which is so broad. It's national in scope. It involves the FBI, the CIA, all government agencies, state governments, local governments. It goes all the way up and down, right throughout the entire system, and all the systems, all the institutions in the country. It's far and wide, and of course, it is spreading its tentacles into the social media realm, where people are right now excited about having Elon Musk potentially take over Twitter. But this, in the United States, and Bill C-11 in Canada, that will just, he can have all the free speech he wants as long as it complies with whatever the government decides the rules are. So free speech only goes as far as the government restrictions allow. And this is a laugh. It's the same thing as Justin Trudeau standing up there during the truckers' convoy, saying that he was bringing in the Emergencies Act and taking away everyone's constitutional rights by imposing martial law so that he could protect your rights. It's a joke.
And we know these people don't fact check. They only opinion check. You either have the right opinion or you don't have it at all. And that's the bottom line. And that's what we saw with the Facebook fact checkers, investigative journalist John Strazel, former reporter at ABC and several other outlets. He took Facebook to court, and the court deemed that, they're not fact checkers, they're opinion checkers. And it's going to be the same
says,
thing
holy
here.
moly, if you open your mouth, you're guilty. That is exactly the point. If they decide they don't like you, if you say something they don't like, they can just call you a terrorist and you're done. You couple that with hate speech laws in Canada, you're done like dinner, man. So you don't think that's going to have a chilling effect on free speech? Think again, because this is powerful stuff, and they'll use it to come after anybody that opposes them. I mean, what is treason? What's the definition? What is it? Attack on government, an attempt to overthrow government. So if you get elected, see, that's sort of where they come from, right? And how they conflate things, how they just change definitions. Any attempt, Justin Trudeau or even Joe Biden, okay, so, now I'm the president or I'm the prime minister. So now anyone that opposes me and makes any attempt to undermine what I'm doing, they're a terrorist because they're trying to undermine my government. Do you see how it works? They take things to the extreme. So in a democracy, in a democratic free society, we are supposed to have the right to criticize the government. We're supposed to have the right to protest. We're supposed to have the right to speak freely, to publish information, publish opinions, speak out on platforms like social media. That's supposed to be our right. But in the little minds of people like Joe Biden and especially Justin Trudeau, who has an especially small, narrow mind, anyone opposing him must be a terrorist. And even if he knows that that definition is, and the application of his definition might be too broad and too all encompassing, to him, it's accurate. And it will be accurate as long as he wants to push back against anyone who criticizes him or his government. It's a way to silence political opponents. That's all it is. This, as I say, makes me laugh in horror to see this information and see this wording, this choice of words.
And the choice of examples that they use. Oh, we're going to protect you. Look at all these instances where we protected people. It's like, give me a bloody break.
And you can apply this to any emergency then. And we've seen what they did during the pandemic to make sure people, stayed on track with the narrative. We saw the efforts at censorship online. We're still experiencing all of that. With this power and this organization, the scope of this, now you say they can easily say that if you are against getting the thing in your shoulder, or you say anything, even just if you just say anything about it, they can say that you're a terrorist. Because you see how it spirals from there. You are against getting the thing in the shoulder, therefore you're selfish. You're encouraging other people to not get the thing in the shoulder, which puts other people at risk. You're spreading misinformation, which could cause people to die. So therefore, you're a terrorist, undermining efforts to get people to get the thing in the shoulder. Get it?
Big time.
And that doesn't really necessarily protect the interests of the public, but you know who it does protect? Government, big corporations, big pharma.
Big pharma.
Any corporation, maybe defense contractors, maybe car companies, could be anybody, any big company. And of course, most importantly, government. Don't sit there and tell me, man, that this is being done to protect our free speech when it's clearly an assault on free speech.
You can't criticize the electric vehicle movement because then that means you don't believe in climate change. And if you don't believe in climate change, you're an enemy of the state. You can't criticize Justin Trudeau because then that makes you a treasonous jerk.
And there is a climate emergency. So if there is a declared climate emergency and anything you say undermines that narrative, or you maybe disagree, too bad. You're a terrorist. They can classify you as that. That means you might not be able to get on a plane. Might be on a no-fly list. The ramifications of this are far-reaching, very scary. You don't believe me? You just wait. You just wait a year from now and see what happens when this legislation, especially in Canada, takes hold. This is bad enough. In Canada, I'm telling you, they're coming for people. They're going to use it as a serious weapon. And I wanted to, at some point, I don't know if we should get into it or not, but I wanted to discuss political realism versus liberalism and neoliberalism, because they're using this. You see, liberals and neoliberals kind of, in today's woke society, they create a reality. It doesn't have to be real. Reality is what they decide it is going to be. Even on an economic level, they don't look at the natural forces at play in the economy. They just start printing money. They don't look at the world the way it is. They look at the world the way they want it to be. You don't have to actually have a terrorist in front of you in using the framing of, say, a political realist. You just have to decide someone is a terrorist and then put the frame around them.
Well, here's a real world example of what you're talking about, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But this made the news this week. Furious Apple staff tell CEO Tim Cook that forcing them back to the office will kill diversity and make tech firm younger, whiter, and more male dominated because it only benefits privileged staff who can disappear into the office all day. So basically, they're calling Apple racist for having a one workday week. And meanwhile, you have all of China that, makes these iPhones in like 15-hour workday shifts, and they have to put suicide nets around the buildings. Like, this is ridiculous. But this is what you're talking about. This is an example of it, where
No, not quite.
they make up a bad guy out of nothing, and it's racist.
Yes, yeah, it's more like we can get into it more in another episode. It's they just make up their own world, their own universe. They decide what they want things to be, and they think that they can just make things happen with the stroke of a pen. But it's not real. It's like the truckers. They just decide that they're going to call them Nazis, and therefore they are. They just decide. They don't have to prove it. They don't have to do anything other than just call them that. Therefore, they are. It's more than that, though. It's in this case, it's like they're creating a boogeyman, but taking it so far that they not just create the illusion of a boogeyman. They actually go out and find a boogeyman. It's like a witch hunt, if you will, right? In this particular case. And this liberalism, this neoliberalism approach can be applied in many different ways. Like I said, it can be applied to the economy, where they just decide that they're just going to make something happen. They don't want inflation anymore, so they just make it go away, or they just imagine things. But it's like Elon Musk said in a clip on, I think it was Joe Rogan. He said, you can't just imagine food. You actually have to produce food. You can't just print a bunch of money and think that that's going to create prosperity. You actually have to have production to go along with it. But liberals don't think that way. They just think, we're just going to make electric cars happen. We're just going to make this happen or that happen. And then they just think they can will it into existence. And it goes so far that they lose their freaking minds and take it to a level where here we have this entire government agency, which basically needs a villain. And they've created this villain over a period of time, which is white supremacists, Nazis, and then they get to decide who those people are. There isn't a problem there to begin with. They create a problem on paper or through a narrative, and then they go out and pick the people that they're going to target to make that come true. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because it isn't real. So you, Brendan, can be targeted now as a terrorist. You're not a terrorist, but under this they can just decide that you are, because of what you've said or thought. I hope that makes sense. I hope it's a complex idea.
No, it's not that.
That's what's really playing out,
saying.
Right?
Yeah. No, they make these boogeymans all the time.
Yeah.
And somebody put a perfect example here. Like, look at that.
Yeah. Well, he became a boogeyman too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Orange man bad. Blah blah blah. Trump derangement syndrome. So on and so forth.
So I think the example you showed sort of has elements of that. Not exactly what I was trying to explain, but sort of in the same vein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of this tonight. The whole thing is just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's a huge threat to everyone. We should all be extremely worried about it. We'll talk about it more down the road, I'm sure.
I think now's a good time to jump into our main story that we were going to tackle first, but then we didn't.
Yeah, let's take a a brief 30-second break, and then we'll come back and talk about what? Roe v. Wade?
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about this whole abortion thing, and we'll be right back after. Hang on a second here. Let me just check something. Just give me a second here, Brendan. I've got a problem, a technical problem.
Uh-oh. We are experiencing a technical difficulty, but we will be right back with you in just a moment. As soon as we get this figured out.
We won't take a break. Just start talking about Roe v. Wade.
Okay. So we'll start talking about Roe v. Wade. Story goes that the Supreme Court drafted an opinion to overturn the Roe v. Wade, which this is not a public ruling at this time, but it was a leaked document, is my understanding. And Rick Walker had pointed out that with things with abortion, this is a problem that this has been something that's been polarizing since before I was born. Probably will be for the rest of my life. And I know that there's been all kinds of things that I agree with or disagree with, but I do know in California they did have laws put out essentially stating that you can neglect your newborn child until it dies without experiencing any criminal prosecution or criminal charges about that. There's, like I said, this is very polarizing. This is something that happens all the time. I know I have kind of different views than a lot of conservatives do on it, as I am more libertarian leaning than conservative at the end of the day. But I do have some concerns that I do believe in personal responsibility, which is a big thing. And I think that this issue, when it is complained about in the media, is entirely one-sided. You could also say it right now is the time where we're going to see a lot of morons basically say, well, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. Okay. Where were all you people for the past 2 years where it was not my body, my choice? These are the same people who push masking on people, the thing in the arm, if you don't get this, and then you're part of the problem, and blah, 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 and the list goes on. I did, in fact, find that Elizabeth Warren, who is a senator in the United States, has come out with a whole speech about this. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren did get in a lot of trouble because she had declared that she part of her ancestry was Native American, and it turned out that none of it was. And so I think now is a good time to just play this clip. We'll see her coin nickname is Pocahontas. We'll see what she had to say.
I am angry. I am angry because an extremist United States Supreme Court thinks that they can impose their extremist views on all of the women of this country, and they are wrong.
Yes.
I am angry because we have reached the culmination of what Republicans have been fighting for, angling airplane. They can fly to another state. They can fly to another country. They can get the protection they need. This will fall on the poorest women in our country. This will fall on the young women who have been abused, who are victims of incest. This will fall on those who have been raped. This will fall on mothers who are already struggling to work 3 jobs to be able to support the children they have. Well, I am here because I am angry, and I am here because the United States Congress can change all of this.
Yes,
Angry, but committed. Understand this. I have seen the world where abortion is illegal. And we are not going back. Not ever.
No.
So say it with me. We are not going back. We are not going back. Not ever.
Not ever.
Not ever.
Not ever.
Not ever.
Not ever.
Never.
Well, Pocahontas, I gotta say, I'm extremely angry that you declared yourself to be Native American to score cheap political points, and it was entirely a lie. So that just goes to show you what type of morality that you come from with that. But my biggest problem with this whole thing is at the end of the day, they make it sound like it's a cheap alternative. That it's just something that you do, and once you do it, all your problems go away. We have a lot of different chats in this country, and especially nowadays, about things like mental health and those types of problems. But you need to understand that this is not some cheap, easy solution. That this is something that will haunt you the rest of your life. And quite frankly, it does. And people who say that it doesn't, I assure you they're wrong. That nobody just goes ahead with this and doesn't feel any repercussions of it. I mean, if you want to do it, I don't care that much, but I get pissed off at the idea that people think that, oh, we'll just do this and all my problems will go away. I think there should be more discussion around it about what are the impacts of doing that. Because it's not just the woman that's affected by it. It's everybody around her. There's all kinds of alternatives. There's somebody just commented, there's adoption and other things. But I think it's a terrible thing that we just make it seem like, oh, well, take the magic wand and the medical magic wand, and we'll just wish all your problems away. There's more to it than that. There's way more to it than that. And that's kind of my piece on it. Rick Walker, are you back yet?
I'm here.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, I wasn't too sure what to...
Well, I don't think we explained this yet, but this is a draft on a decision which indicates the court is about to overturn
Yes.
Roe v. Wade. I'm not sure how much weight to give it. People are losing their minds over it. I'd like to wait and see what happens over the next day or two from the legal perspective. The arguments on both sides have not changed,
No.
nor will they likely ever change.
Mm-hmm.
It all centers around, when does life begin? When does an abortion become murder? And opinions on that vary widely. I think also is important to take note of how many abortions there have been year over year. And here we go. Here's Worldometer. How many abortions worldwide this year? 14,363,162, 64, 65, 66, 67. It's counting. These
Half the
are
population of Canada.
government statistics worldwide compiled at Worldometer. It's counting right now. Every time that number changes, more babies are aborted. I do believe that people have been using abortion far too liberally. They use it today simply as a form of birth control, many people. I think it's sad.
Yeah, it is terribly sad. It is terribly sad.
And we need to look at that number. To everyone sitting at home right now, that's such a big number, that's like a statistic. But you have to think that every time that number changes, another human life that could have been is gone. So this is as serious as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then people want to talk about my body, my choice, people's rights. It becomes rather complex when you now have more than one life to consider. I think people who get engaged in this debate, your point of view depends on how you view human life, how you view things like God, whether people have a soul, what kind of value people place on human life. When I look at a number like that, that disturbs me. You're right, Brendan. That's half the population of Canada so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only into May. That's a lot of people. The older I get, the more it bothers me. Maybe because I'm facing, as each day passes and you get older, you are forced to confront your own mortality and what life means. And when you're young, life seems to have a different context, right?
Yes. Yes, it totally does. And speaking of context, I really think that it's important to highlight this with this subject, because these are the nuances that come with this whole situation. Need to look at the other side. If people are raped or incest, I think the choice is different. I don't want to start a fight. Well, we're not starting a fight. We're having a responsible conversation with it. There's been plenty of children that have been born in those circumstances that do grow up to have a successful, happy, healthy life. Like I said, as I'm more libertarian leaning, I don't want to dictate to people what to do in this, but like I said, it's far too liberal, I think, to lean on. We've turned this, in, just like you said, Rick, into a form of birth control when it should be a form of last measure. And there are several resources out there for whether it be young kids, other people, whether it be health units or other. But it is something that's way more sensitive than than most people would admit to. And yeah, there is nuance with this situation. It's not something to be taken lightly. And quite frankly, I am quite tired of it being discussed and treated like a form of birth control, because that's not what it was ever designed for. It.
Yeah, these are numbers. I don't know how accurate these are. It's from a website called Statista. The number of legal abortions reported in the United States from 1973 to 2019. You can see that we hit a high of 1,429,000 in 1990, and this is just in the United States alone. 616,000 in 1973. Numbers have been coming down. So in 2019, 630,000. But all these blue lines, all these human lives gone. Boy, it's a polarizing issue.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I will say is, like everything, it seems people are divided down a very defined political line on this issue, like
Mm-hmm.
every other darn issue. I would say that people who advocate for abortion have been taking it too far. I think that is very clear, in my opinion, because we've seen where even at the moment of birth, or in some cases even after birth.
Let's take a moment to highlight that. I still have the footage from all that stuff that was going on in California, and we could highlight the clear line of taking it too far. They'd done streeters and
So Denise says, unless you are a woman that chooses to get an abortion, you will never know what she goes through to come to a decision like that. It's not something you do and then forget about it. But also, where are those that will be there to take care of those babies when they are born and not wanted? People think, oh, they will get adopted. Before you say that, go talk to couples who try to adopt. It is not easy to do, and some never get to. But to use abortion as birth control, no, it's not right. And to use it that way.
yeah, that's a well-nuanced discussion. That's a well-nuanced discussion. And George Carlin made a very excellent point about this, that politicians always had this thing where they care about the unborn. But then when the kid is born, they don't give two craps. Like there's so many things to it. But let's highlight this, because this is what I think is it's worth playing, I think. Because there is a line in here, and several of our viewers have shown us that they understand, but I'm of the opinion it's very hard to draw a line in the sand of what is right and what is wrong, and who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong, and that sort of thing. All right.
And if the baby dies, so basically, like, if they have their baby, they can neglect them for 7 days, and if the baby dies, then they can't be held criminally liable. What do you think?
Yeah, I think whatever helps women and helps them achieve their dreams, and however that needs to happen, is definitely acts to help. That is helping all of us.
So I prefer that most women make their decisions at 8 weeks, but I'm also in support of 10 months out of the womb.
So you think babies should be aborted 10 months after they're born?
If the mother wants to, yes.
I think fuck them kids. So if you want to get a late-term abortion, that's up to you. I've had an abortion too, and it was my choice, and I'm happy I had that choice.
I've had an abortion myself.
Would you guys get an abortion again?
Yes,
100%.
100 times. I'd do it multiple times.
Until I feel that I'm ready to parent, that's a choice I'll continue to make.
Well, I already said it. People have been taking it too far.
Yes. And here's the thing. Those kids in the last clip there, they say that, but there'll come a point in their life where that's gonna that there's a price to pay with it. And if you don't understand that there's a price to pay with, then
It would be a whole lot easier if there was some scientific, clear, absolutely indisputable definition telling us that on this day, after so many days, then this fetus becomes a human being. And then it's inappropriate and wrong to have an abortion. But we don't have that answer. And so the debate rages, because at what point does someone, when the sperm meets the egg, is that the point, or how many days or months after? At what point? I don't sit here tonight and even pretend to have an answer for this, because
neither do I.
I'm not wise enough. I only have my own personal feelings on it, and my feelings alone are not enough. I believe in freedom. I don't want to impose my will on other people.
That's my number one thing.
But people do need to recognize that we're not just talking about one life. That is an issue. Any woman, any man, any person who doesn't acknowledge that is not being honest with themselves or anyone else.
Yes.
That is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
There are very complex questions surrounding that issue, but we are dealing with more than one life. And therefore, the question is, whose rights are you defending? And whose rights are more important? The mother or the unborn child? Or in this case, in some cases, the born child.
Yeah, that whole 10-month thing, screw that. That's your garbage.
And yet some people say that when the baby's coming out, it's okay to abort it then. Brendan, people have such a wide range of views on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that is going to be resolved.
Oh, hell no.
I don't care what happens in the courts.
Yeah.
This ain't going to be resolved.
Oh,
People
it'll
are
come
gonna be
back every 5
fighting
years like it
over
always
this
does.
till the day I die and beyond.
Actually, we have midterms coming up in the United States. Do you think that this is an issue that comes up every time that there's midterms? Could be one of those things at the end of the day.
The thing is, too, I don't know who leaked this. I was going to watch a video with lawyer Alan Dershowitz.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to do that before we came on the air. I was interested in his, not only his legal opinion, but his post today was that he thinks he knows who leaked it and why.
Okay.
But I didn't have time to watch it. So I'd like to find out more about what he has to say. I want to know more about the political end of all of this, what the possible political motives are behind it. This is a legal thing. It's a pretty complex topic, and I think we've touched on it. I don't think we need to dig into it too much deeper here tonight.
No. I don't.
And I'm not equipped at this point to comment on it much more, because I need to know more about the specifics surrounding the issue right now, the current issues surrounding it, so that I can speak more intelligently about it. And until then, and even after that.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. People have asked me this on the show before, and
I'll state for the record, right? When I was younger, and I didn't think as much, or I thought, but I just didn't have much life experience, I was pro-choice, or so I thought. But as I age, as I have more life experience, as I think about things more, much less so. I'm
Well-
much more pro-life. Did I say pro-life before?
Yeah.
I was pro-choice.
Yes, that's what you said.
before. I'm way more pro-life now. I am, because I've
Mm-hmm.
had many more years to think about it, and more life experience surrounding it. Contact with people who've gone through it. So I'm way more pro-life.
Mhm.
Way more. So
And hey-
just for transparency, there it is.
At the end of the day, think about nuance, think about balance, think about. There's so many things to think about. It's not an easy decision, and at no point should anybody be talking like those California girls that, like, if you think that way about this at all, well, that's going to catch up with you someday, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm pro responsibility. That's what I am.
Well, that's just it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many people. I guess that's another thing I could touch on. I think that our society
Mm-hmm.
has been sending bad messages to young people for a long time, telling them that they can do what they want,
Yeah.
do what feels good, and feel like they don't have to take responsibility for their actions. We've given them birth control, which has changed our society. It has dramatically changed the relationships between men and women. You throw abortion in there. I think that abortion has also changed the relationship between men and women. I think government has been far too liberal with it, far too easy, making it far too easy, because I think government has has adopted an anti-human position. We've got a government that doesn't value human life, whether you're talking about the creation of human life and the ending of it at abortion, through abortion, or whether now, even in the province of Ontario, with assisted death and the liberalization, if you want to call it liberalization, but the change in the legislation making it far easier for someone to apply for and get approved for assisted suicide. And doctors are going around the province right now, rubber stamping these things at an unbelievable rate. It's disgusting. If you want to look at the way they shoved COVID patients into nursing homes in some states, don't tell me that wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
And look at what happened as a result. We have people who are very evil out there. We have politicians who are evil. We have people who are anti-human, people who are in charge, in control, in power, who believe in eugenics, who believe in transhumanism. These are real things. People's minds are being shaped through propaganda and government information distributed through the mainstream media, and that's been the case for a long time. If you don't think you're being affected and manipulated, think again. Everybody is, including myself. You can resist it. You can try to use critical thinking to think around it, to get to the truth. But these government bureaucrats, politicians, the people in charge, the elite, the globalists, the people in charge of the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, we do see that they have an anti-human agenda, depopulation. They talk about these things.
And
these are real things.
That's an interesting point that Candace Owens, she is a conservative commentator with the Daily Wire now, formerly with Turning Point USA. But she has, time after time, stated the case of the negative impacts on the black community through Planned Parenthood, that they say, oh, this empowers people of color, and at the same time, it totally dwindles the black population to
because these
crazy
programs
levels.
are supposed to assist people.
Mhm.
They've been clearly directed at poorer communities, less
Mhm.
prosperous, right? In some
Yep.
cases, very poor communities, where you find that you have a demographic that is predominantly black.
Mhm.
And so this is viewed, and I think probably rightly so, as an attempt at on a level that you could argue is a genocide.
Yeah.
So through media campaigns, encouraging young women, young black women to get abortions, or women of other visible minorities to get abortions, you have massive, massive amounts of just massive numbers of abortions in the millions, as we've
Yeah.
seen. And if you broke that down demographically, you would see an extreme leaning, a disproportionate number of those abortions were performed in the black community
Yeah.
in the
Big
United
time.
States. I don't think
Now,
it's probably not a lot different in other countries, maybe not even in Canada. Again, I'd have to dig into the numbers. I'm not really an expert.
well, I think that we're offering a different kind of social commentary on it, and I enjoy that we're two different, like we don't agree 100% on this topic.
There's
But
another aspect I probably should touch on too. Now that it
I
comes to
have
top
one
of
more
mind.
aspect on
Sure,
it
go
too,
ahead. Yeah.
but I'll let you do yours first because I know
Sure.
when I railroad you, you forget.
Yeah, I'm getting old, and I do have my Biden moments. I remember growing up, going to the Ontario Science Center. I remember one exhibit. It wasn't even really that technical, but it looked pretty cool to me at the time. It was the 1970s.
Yeah.
So I went on a school field trip, Ontario Science Center. There was a thing there that had like this half globe, and you pushed a button, and it had population explosion, they called it. You pushed the button, and it started to light up with lights and make noise. And there was this globe on this table, and it started to show the population growth around the world. And it scares the hell out of you because it makes it look like the world will soon be so overpopulated that we'll all be living in poverty, and we can't feed people, and we're all doomed, right? So you couple that, take a kid like myself and a bunch of elementary school kids, take them to the Ontario Science Center, expose them to an exhibit like that, and I'm like, holy crap! Pretty soon the whole world's going to be overpopulated. We're all screwed. We're all going to die. Well, you combine that with years and years and years of government information propaganda telling people in Canada and the United States too that you shouldn't have children because the world is going to be overpopulated.
Yes.
No, don't have children. And then you give people birth control since, like the 60s, right? The pill. You throw in abortion. And what have we seen in our society? We've seen population decline. We don't even have enough children to sustain our population. And then you tell women go out and work, and you tell people that having large families is a bad thing. And so now we don't even have enough kids. I think we have 1.2 kids per couple or something.
Yep.
Within the population of Canada that however you want to
small.
describe it, right? The not new Canadians, but people who have been here for a while.
I'll put that in a small perspective. My grandfather, he was in a family of 13 kids.
Yeah.
My mom's family was in a family of 5 kids. I was in a family of 4 kids, and I have 2 kids. So
you combine all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it. And all of this is government initiative. All of it, right? Birth control, making sure people have access to it, giving it away for free, making it widely accessible to young girls. All of these things, abortion, make it easy for people to get it, encourage it, tell people then on the social side not to have kids, make the choice not to, telling women go out and work, don't have families. You don't need to get married. You don't need to have kids, and you shouldn't, because the environment is being destroyed, and we need to control the population, only now to be told that we don't have enough people. So now we have to bring in all these new people and open the floodgates to immigration because we need it to sustain the economy.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough people. We're not having enough kids. So which is it? Which is it?
Yeah. Good point.
We don't have enough, but we have enough. And so this is what has happened to our society. Don't tell me that's an accident. This is something sinister. This is something evil. And it relates to abortion. Abortion is just one of those elements. I'm not saying I have all the answers, and I'm just pointing this out. These are government initiatives, and we really need to be careful how much power we give our government because they're leading us down a very dark path, folks.
Now, that last point I was going to make, so we could wrap this story up, basically.
Yeah.
All of these people who are espousing that this is for women's rights, may I remind you, they can't even define what a woman is.
There's no question that I think that, well, abortion, you can argue it has its place. A lot of people, whether you want to say they're socialists, communists, liberals, or even fascists who believe in eugenics.
Yeah.
They've been using abortion as a tool to achieve other things, not just to protect women. They've been using it as a social engineering tool.
Well, they can't even define what a woman is, so I mean, it's starting to get ridiculous. So, I mean, look at this. This is the reflection of the society that they want. No. I reject this. I reject this language. I reject people who think like that. Absolutely ridiculous. All in the name of inclusivity and diversity. Give me a break.
Complex issue, I guess.
That's not a complex issue. You could dig a
No,
woman
but I'm
up
talking
in
about abortion.
Yeah, that's a complex issue. But I mean, you could dig a woman up in 100 years, and an anthropologist could tell you, well, that's a woman. It's not rocket appliances. So it's like, but that's the thing. This is another example of the left eating itself. But they say, oh, well, this is for women's rights. Okay, well, what is a woman? I don't know. I'm not a biologist.
Well, folks,
Anyway, roll the commercial.
I'm going to let we don't have it. That's the point. I'll let you say the spiel and see if we can get some support so we can survive another day.
Yeah. So our commercial died somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's really weird, so I won't go looking for it. Anyway, we need your support. We need your help. It does take a little bit of cost to keep the lights on.
A lot
keep
of cost, actually.
What's that?
A lot of cost.
A lot of costs to keep the lights on and keep all of our software programs licensed and that sort of thing. Food on the table, bandwidth. Rick Walker hasn't eaten a sandwich in 10 weeks or any crinkle cut French fries. He went to the grocery store just
Not
to stare
true.
at a bag.
I had some today.
You should have
Finally.
rolled with it, man. Should have rolled with it. Rick Walker couldn't afford his crinkle cut French fries. We need your help.
First crinkle cuts in 6 weeks or something. It's okay.
Anyhow, you can support us at freedomreporters.com. That is freedomreporters.com. There is a link in the description below for the Rumble page, and I think so as well for Facebook. If you're watching on the Flow of Discourse channel, you should be able to find the link there as well. Last but not least, if you are unable to support us financially, you can also help us out by making sure that you react to this video, whether it's a Rumble thumbs up, you can make an angry face, sad face, heart face, whatever, on Facebook. You know how it goes. We'll be back on YouTube next week. Please react to it, as it does help defeat the algorithm, and that's very important in getting us out there, getting our discussions out there, which I feel like we have real life discussions with real nuance and with real thought. And if you're getting this from CNN, then it's brought to you by Pfizer, but we are brought to you by you, the people.
I think they took us off YouTube because we had more subscribers and viewers than CNN Plus.
I think they would. I think that's pretty real.
And that's the truth.
Oh, we need to get you connected with Nancy. Rick, I can make you homemade crinkle cuts. That is some
See,
gourmet
we are
French
family.
fries.
We are family, and people love me, Brendan.
Well, I don't
Nancy
love you.
loves me. Nancy loves me.
No, I'm kidding. We're bros, on screen and off the screen. Right, Rick Walker?
We are.
All right. Even though I call you old, it's just a thing we do. Anywho, please give us a help out with that. And thanks for your help, Carla. Please give us a help with that, with those things. And also, please go to our Rumble page and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you share, okay? So every one of those things that you can do for us really gives a big hand and really slaps the censorship New World Order bastards in the face. So please, give us a hand. Help us out.
Yeah, Brendan, show me some love. See? Show me some love, Brendan.
I did. I called it. I said we're bros on screen and off screen. What more do you want?
A lot more.
A lot more.
I need a lot more affection.
Oh gosh.
I'm hungry for it now.
That's why you
to
got
a point.
dog.
To a point. No hugging.
Yeah. I'm not into that male on male thing. I have to be careful what I say though. We are on Facebook.
No, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel on Rumble. It's free.
It's free.
So you can head over there and I should have put the link in the description to Rumble as well to make it easy for people. I'll do that tomorrow night. We're not on Odyssey tonight. The link just didn't hook up, but we've got it pretty much worked out. So we will be back on Odyssey tomorrow night. We are. We did set up the Cloud Hub social media platform. I actually kind of like it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to take a look at that. I know you said Odyssey is kind of.
Yeah, the Odyssey thing. It just doesn't look like there are a lot of people over there. But over time, it might grow. So we're just going to continue doing it. The Rumble's really good.
Yes.
But most of our people are still over on YouTube, and because we got banned, what are you going to do? I can't reach people. They don't give us the list. We just know this, the subscriber number. And the big channels are on YouTube, but we do have actually a lot of people on Facebook, on the different pages that we have there.
Yes.
So we have quite a number of people watching on Facebook and Rumble. So we've got thousands of people still watching the show. So it's really good.
Big time.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we'll have to restructure the show pretty soon anyway to kind of follow a format where we can have censored discussions and uncensored discussions, because I think that's just going to be the reality of this censorship hellhole that we live in.
Yeah.
We need to be the movable printing press.
So what do we move on to next, Brendan? Which story you want to hit now?
Well, I think we should do the Jagmeet Singh thing. He did a press conference today. So, anybody who doesn't know, Jagmeet Singh, he is the leader for the New Democrat Party of Canada. They are left of left of left. So, some people would call them left of center. I would call them left of center. And
Brendan, Carla just donated $100. Thank you, Carla.
We love you, Carla. You're the best.
We do.
Anywho, with that being said...
Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah,
Let's hear more about Jagmeet.
Jagmeet Singh. I'm not going to honor him with his full real name, because if this guy runs the country, he'll have a mask super glued to your face and you'll be programmed to the current thing, and anybody who says otherwise will be thrown into the gulag for concentration purposes and for everything else. That's not just my opinion. That's exactly what will happen. Listen to the things that he talks about. He's going to talk about the Roe v. Wade decision or draft being leaked in the United States. And then he's also going to tell everybody a little bit about lowering the voting age. So there is a private member's bill through Taylor Backrack, and he is a NDP MP. I believe he's a backbencher, something or other. And they are pushing really hard to lower the voting age to 16. I think
If somebody is asking how they can donate, you can go to freedomreporters.com and donate right there by going to that URL, or you can click the hot link in the the one YouTube channel, Facebook, Rumble, descriptions, and I'll just leave that up for a moment while Brendan plays this clip.
Yep, so I'm going to play this. I actually have to take care of something really quick, so if you'll excuse me, we'll let this play for a few minutes, and we're not going to play the whole thing by any means.
Yep, I'll stay here and hold down the ship while Jagmeet speaks, and when it gets to be a little too much, I'll just dump out of it and have a chat with the folks.
Do you want me to actually put it in the private chat? You can control it. It won't be very long.
I can take it down.
Okay, perfect.
Go ahead, let her rip.
All right.
Bonjour, good morning. I want to start off today just reflecting on the leak in the United States and what it must feel like for people in the United States, for women to wake up to see their fundamental right to have a legal abortion potentially and very dangerously threatened. It looks like it will be overturned, and that's something deeply concerning. We know that when abortion rights are denied or when abortion services are denied, the result is women die. And it's deeply concerning to see that happen. In Canada, the right is secure, but what we're seeing as a trend and as a problem is the access is in question. Many communities do not have access to legal abortions in their communities, and women have to drive hundreds of kilometers. And so that's something we have to continue to fight to expand, to make sure access is there. The right is important, but what's even more important than the right is access to that right. And so in Canada, we're going to continue to fight to make sure people do have access and that those services are available. What we're here to announce today, or what we're here to support, is our Member of Parliament, Taylor Backrack, put forward a private member's bill on lowering the voting age, something we think is fundamentally important, and we believe it'll be a step to strengthen democracy, to encourage more participation, and we've seen great evidence that that's what happens. Young people, 16, at the age of 16, participate in society, they work, they pay their taxes, they are able to drive, they're able to get married, and they should be able to vote. And one of the strongest arguments for why we believe that this is so important is that young people are more than ever going to be impacted disproportionately by the decisions we make today. And some of those decisions include, of course, the climate crisis, which will most directly impact young people. And so they should have a say in what happens. Secondly, the housing crisis, which is one of the biggest crises that as a society we're up against, that is also going to disproportionately impact young people. So those two really crucial questions, young people should have a say in how that is dealt with, how those questions are responded to. So we strongly support this bill. I want to thank Taylor Backrack for bringing this forward. And of course, it'll have our full support. We want to encourage all members of Parliament to support. It's not a political issue in the sense it's not a partisan issue. It's a political issue in the sense it's one to strengthen our democracy. And we think it's so important to have the support. In that, on that question, we have a special guest, Dr. Jan Ishon, who has specialized or has researched the impact of a younger, lower voting age on democratic participation, and has some strong evidence to support why this will impact not just young people's participation, but their participation moving forward as well. So a really strong case to be made around why this is so important. Donc aujourd'hui, je vais commencer en reconnaissant ce que se passe aux États-Unis.
Okay, so what do you guys think? In my view, he's supporting it because they know young people are more inclined to vote left, NDP liberal. So it represents a voting bloc for them, not exclusively, but largely. So that's why he's supporting it. If he thought they were going to vote conservative, no damn way. He would not support it. I guarantee you that. Because I don't think he has the moral compass or the ethics to look at this in an impartial way at all, politically. Beyond that, I have some concerns about a 16-year-old walking into a voting booth because they're impressionable. They don't really have much in the way of life experience at all. And while some young people may be independent, maybe they are old enough to be married, I'd suggest that that's a very small percentage. I don't think a 16-year-old has the life experience to make a really good decision when they walk into a polling booth to cast a ballot. I'm not, entirely opposed, but I have concerns, and I don't think I would support it for that main reason. Just because, we're not sending a 16-year-old off to war.
Well,
But, I think that the age that we have right now is appropriate. I think voting should be for adults. That's my view.
I think kids are, especially 16 and in that demographic, are highly susceptible to social engineering programs. And as you'll see, and I'll show you now, so this is a guy who put forward the bill. He's the member of parliament for Skeena Bulky Valley NDP, transport critic. He loves biking, skiing, canoeing. He's former mayor of Smithers, but here it is. Right now, I'm watching a global hashtag Vote16 forum with reps from New Zealand, US, Canada, UK, Kenya, and Cameroon. Amazing stories and updates from all across the world. And so they're having these discussions. And we're going to go to this website. If you go to Vote16, it shows you that this is an entirely a global agenda with United Nations. UNICEF is highly involved in it. Many other organizations are heavily involved in it. I don't know how much this would sway things in the end, as there's very low voter turnout when it comes to young people in this country already. Yeah, we can't see Rumble chats.
Yeah, I've got to figure out a way to get those chats over here through the streaming software.
Yeah.
Not seeing it. So all these coming in are really from Facebook, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the YouTube portal. But anyway, moving on. I have concerns that this is hugely a globalist agenda. It's designed to throw votes directly to the NDP and the Liberal Party of Canada. We know that they're going to vote it in. What the Senate's going to do with it, I don't bloody know. But I know when I was in high school, you know what the key things that the teachers were always pushing on us, Rick Walker? It's going to be different than the things that they pushed on you. But the key things that they pushed on us, in many ways, was legalization of marijuana and climate change. Mm-hmm. And we always did a student ballot around elections, whether it was Ontario elections or federal elections. And the vote was always unanimously the Green Party. And that was at the behest of the teachers.
Yeah.
Who only show you their liberal opinions.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, most teachers that are in high school and otherwise, they're overwhelmingly liberal.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to go up there and start sharing right-sided talking points or libertarian or conservative? No.
Yeah, and don't make no mistake. Teenagers, I think I know they're heavily influenced by what their teachers are feeding them at school. These schools, these public schools, have become indoctrination centers. Families are becoming far less important. So you get 16-year-olds in there voting, and yes, I think they can easily be manipulated.
And they are easily manipulated. That's the bottom line. They lack critical thinking skills in order to vote.
Carla says fully indoctrinated, yes.
They do say they do say overwhelmingly that, like, even look at, they say, oh, well, 16-year-old kids can drive. It's like, well, yeah, they can drive, but are they good at it? No. Plenty of 16-year-olds do reckless things with driving, and other things. I just think this is highly inappropriate. I think that this is going to be designed to sway things in Justin Trudeau and the NDP party, and what's going to happen with it, I mean, time will tell, but those are my predictions, and we know this is coming. And this is going to change the landscape of every election in the country for the coming days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I have to do, what I have to say about this. I thought it was important to mention and bring up. It is going to impact how we operate in a big way. And it's not going to be these cute little talking points that Jagmeet Singh was bringing up there.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be a whole lot more to it than that. And then what the hell kind of advertising campaigns are they going to come at for the younger voting demographic?
They'll hammer on it, no question.
How much more effective is it going to be than hammering on the adult demographic? I bet you it's going to be way more effective.
Here's a question. Why now? Why are they pushing for this now? Why are they pushing for it at all? What's the motivation behind this? What was the catalyst for this? No particular reason. It's been, the voting age has been what it's been for a long time. So why now? I'm curious, and I'm not expecting you to have an answer. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I think the motive for it is to secure NDP Liberal Party. NDP Liberal power for generations to come.
Yeah, I think it just goes in lockstep with this whole globalist agenda, the WEF stuff, right? It's just part of it, and they know it.
And even more ridiculous, you're going to see this too. They're going to start trying to buy 16-year-olds votes, and it's going to be an even bigger waste of money.
They already have here in Ontario with free prescriptions.
With what?
Free prescriptions. They, in the province, last time around.
That's more pointed at parents, I would say.
No, it's aimed at kids, and it is. Anyway, who it's actually aimed at, Brendan? Corporations. People don't get this. If you have a job and you have benefits through your job, the benefit package covers most or even all of your prescriptions. If the government then says, we're going to take over prescriptions and make them free for everyone, so we have a government drug plan, who does that really relieve of the burden of cost? The big companies, the corporations that provide benefits to their employees. So really what they did, people don't even get this. I don't even ever hear anybody say this.
Yeah,
They've just relieved these big companies of this massive bill. They just put money back into the pocket of the big companies, the corporations. They make it look like they're looking out for the little guy. We're going to give you free medicine. We're going to give the less fortunate free medicine. That may benefit people who are less fortunate, people on a low income, people who are on disability assistance or whatever it might be, or seniors or something, right? Whatever. Yeah, you might benefit those people. But the truth is, even those people now, a lot of them, actually everyone, because of a plan that Bob Ray brought in, there are plans in place already to help those folks. So largely, any government drug plan, which we know we're going to get, anyway, it's coming, right?
Dental
when's
care.
that going to be implemented? Dental care is already coming. And we're going to get these free prescriptions too. They want the drug plan, but it's the big corporations that it's another handout to those guys while they make it look like they're trying to help the little guy. It's a big pile of crap. And at the end of the day, do you know who ultimately pays for it? We pay for it, taxpayers. So really what they've done is they've bought us with our own money while giving the money to the big companies. It's Jagmeet Singh is full of crap. He always makes it look like he's doing some socially responsible, politically correct, philanthropic thing to benefit the little guy, when in reality, he's full of it. He's helping the big corporations that are financing his campaigns and giving him enough money so he can drive around in his Beamer and wear his Rolex. He's full of shit. That guy is so full of shit. I'm telling you, man, he's full of it. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Big time. Big time.
But
I got to tell you,
left-wing socialist wackadoodles, they'll vote for the guy.
And now that the writ has dropped for this Ontario election, I really have to say, I used to be really pissed off with the bullshit that you hear when elections are near. I am getting really tired of this vote buying stuff.
Mm-hmm. Provincial election. The
people,
Liberals, who was the liberal, whatever, he wants to buy everybody snow tires. Snow tires.
People are selling out their damn country for a few $100 in their pocket. And you know what? The amount that you could put into your own pocket with less government is hugely astronomically more. You gotta understand that. Snow tires aren't gonna save you, man. And
when they do that crap, it has all these unintended consequences. You run it through your head. What happens if the Liberals start buying people snow tires? They give everybody this subsidy to go out and buy snow tires. How stupid is that? Or if they did that in any state, but this is what they want to do in the province of Ontario, these Liberals, the Liberal Party. This is what at least one of the MPPs has proposed. You think about it for a minute. It's not fair because everybody has a different size of tire. But the way it was proposed, you get a certain amount of money. I think it was like $75 or $100 a tire or something. So it's basically a free set of snow tires, are pretty darn close. But if you have a truck, your tires are bigger, well, that doesn't cover the full cost of your tire. But if you have a little tiny car, it probably more than covers the cost of a full set of snow tires. Now, what else is that going to do? People who need tires, it's intended to give people the money to buy snow tires so that their vehicles are safer in the winter. But they won't just do that. They'll buy the snow tires and they'll run them all year round. They'll run them in the summer and in the winter. So now people will only buy snow tires. They won't buy summer tires at all because it's way cheaper. Well, some people would if you have enough money, right? But a lot of people will just say, screw that. I'm just going to run snow tires because basically the government made tires free or pretty darn close to free. Now the tire dealers who are sitting on all this inventory of summer tire stock, they're going to have a hard time moving that. They're only going to want to stock snow tires year round, which are actually not as safe in the summer as they are in the winter. They're not unsafe, but summer tires are safer in the summer. Plus, snow tires wear out faster in the heat on hot pavement because of the degradant mix in the rubber. So people will be running around, driving around in their cars, wearing out their tires 3 or 4 times faster than they should because they're running winter tires on hot summer asphalt. And the rubber's going to wear out way faster. So that's not as good for the environment. And if you want to talk about the environment, tires are one of the biggest concerns. Yeah, they can be recycled, but it's a huge environmental challenge, all those tires. That's probably the biggest environmental challenge with automobiles, period. Less so with gasoline, which is a whole different subject. But they are so full of crap and they don't think things through. And the idea is to make the roads safer, and also they take away your choice and limit your freedom by making it mandatory for you to have those snow tires on your car at that point. And then they say you don't have any excuse to not buy them because we're giving you this tax incentive or these grants to go out and buy them. So You're obligated to. If you don't get those snow tires, they're going to fine you. It's not as simple as they think. You know, that's kind of what I was saying earlier too, Brendan. These liberals, neoliberals who subscribe to liberalism as an ideology, they kind of make up their own reality. And idiots like this guy wants to give everybody snow tires, this liberal, he's not thinking it all through.
Stephen Del Duca, by the way. He's the
well, that's the leader, but it wasn't actually from him. It was
Okay.
an MPP. I'd have to look up the guy's name. It slips my mind at the moment. But this is a real thing. It's just not wise. It's just not wise.
You know, we could just take a moment to laugh at this because this is all the stuff that, like,
Yes, we do need to reduce the government. People can figure things out for themselves. Let people live their lives. Let people make their healthcare decisions for themselves. Let them decide what kind of tires they want on their car for themselves. Don't tax them over here and penalize them for the same thing over there. Don't give a car plant $500 million to produce pickup trucks and then impose a tax on that same pickup truck for $1,000 to $4,000 to make it more expensive for people to buy it. What is the point in putting your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time? It's only to kowtow, bend down, and appease special interest groups so that you don't get hammered in the media. You're trying to buy votes on both sides at the same time. So over here, you're doing one thing with a grant and then doing something else over here with a penalty that cancels it out. It's insane. Get government off of people's back.
look how stupid some of this stuff is. Like, do you like it? It is time to call the military and get staffing shortage in hospitals under control. Do you think that even under the worst hospital conditions ever, that a majority liberal government would call in the military? That is preposterously stupid. Preposterously stupid. And it's easy for them to say this when they don't have any authority on anything. And how do you get to say this, but then come out days later and say Ontario Liberals demand action to safeguard schools from any future closures? How do you say this and then say this? It makes no bloody sense. This website just makes me sick looking at this stuff.
Can we look at that more closely? Ontario what the military thing? What was that?
It is time to call in the military and get staffing shortages in hospitals under control today. This was January.
That was in January.
Yes,
right.
That was during the so-called fifth wave.
Can I say something else? This is a little bit off topic.
Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to the Walmart workers and the grocery store workers and the post office workers and all those workers. You know why? I'm so tired. Not to take anything away from hospital workers who are supposed to be our healthcare heroes, right? Okay.
Well, Rick Walker,
whatever.
don't you know
Whatever. Okay.
Freedom people, don't you remember? Freedom people only maliciously attack healthcare workers.
Yeah, I know. Like, because we were evil and freedom fighters. We just hang out at hospitals and try to prevent people from going in to get health care.
You can't have that.
Because we're just such terrible people, right?
Yes.
Not.
Of course not.
Here's the thing. I'm so tired of watching television. And what do you see? You got cop shows. You got shows with doctors mostly. and some with lawyers. Those are the predominant themes, right? Just change the names. Anyway, and they're always portrayed as heroes. And then through the whole pandemic, our healthcare heroes. When those people take those jobs, they know what they're getting into, and there are risks associated with that. Just like joining the military. Okay, fine. It is what it is. Maybe they're heroes, fine. But the reality was through the pandemic, folks, that the guy working at the Walmart stocking the shelves was just as much at risk as anyone working in a hospital. The woman working at the post office, just as much at risk. The person working at the grocery store, people just out working, all of us, anybody that was out working was exposed to this, to honestly, to all kinds of risk, because even now it's spreading around, right? So if you're just out and about, you can be exposed. So some guy working at Walmart stocking the shelf, he doesn't know where all these people coming to the Walmart have been. They're heroes. Everybody was a damn hero, right? Everybody that went out to work, who was out in the public and exposed to just people, all at risk. Everybody did their part. Everybody was out there trying to make things work. You know who didn't make things work? The damn government. Because they were too busy locking everybody down, dividing everybody, spreading hate.
We cannot forget this, but they were fighting amongst themselves on who the hell was considered essential and who the hell wasn't. How many times did that bloody list change? Riddle me that, Rick Walker. How many times did that list change?
And I don't want to take anything away from a doctor or a nurse or any healthcare worker or, anybody working in fine. They had a hard job. Everybody's got a hard job. Everybody had a darn hard job. Everybody had a hard job.
Carla is a nurse, and she says the good nurses hate that healthcare hero phrase. So I mean, you're not, I don't think you're insulting anybody by making that point.
No, and I every time I thought, who's the most at risk? The guy working at Walmart. Why? Because they shut down every small business, made sure that they funneled the entire population of a community through the Walmart or the Costco, right? So the whole town goes through one store where you've got the clerks at the cash register, where you've got the guy stocking the shelves, and they're exposed to everybody coming through. Everybody, the whole damn town, the whole city, their whole portion of the city that comes there. And they're telling us, nobody gave the people their due that way. So I'm giving a shout out to everybody who went out to do anything. Unless you were at home locked down with your laptop, and everybody, good job. Good job. You're all heroes. The whole damn country's full of heroes. Everybody's a hero. And thank you to everybody that did their part to try to keep everything moving. And that's how I view it anyway.
Yeah.
And good job to the healthcare workers too. You did your part. Good job. Right on.
But hey, all the stores, all the shelf stockers made sure that the healthcare workers had food so that they could go to work.
No, I didn't get too many people upset, so that's good. I nothing worse than getting the backlash of the whole healthcare community on you, because the next time I go to the doctor, he might not like me too much, but
he'll jab you with something.
Yeah, something that I'm not supposed to. Anyway.
Anywho,
you get my point. So
let's
try to be positive.
Yeah, well, let's be positive here. Let's make fun of all the vote buying we have here. Del Duca pledges retroactive childcare payment to ensure parents not stuck paying for Doug Ford's delay. That's vote buying. Ontario plan for economic dignity. Well, I don't know what the hell that's about, but look at the language they're using. That's going to be vote buying. Stephen Del Duca launches Ontario. They're same thing again. Ontario Liberal government will invest in children with autism and their families. That is more vote buying. Ontario Liberal plan for equal pay and opportunity for women. That is more vote buying. That's kind of interesting, actually. Let's see.
I don't know. They'll never be equal pay, because it's an issue that they're. I mean, I think there probably is equal pay if you look at it in real terms, but they'll never let the issue die because it's a vote getter for them, right?
Well, I highly doubt. I bet you could look through every single employment policy across the country, and nowhere in black and white terms will you say men hired for said job, we'll call it job A, must be paid this amount. And then subsection B under it. Women hired for job A are to receive lesser amount. This has been debunked on so many levels, and it's all about decisions that more people make. The difference, the minute differences between men and women, which there are minute ones, but they impact the statistics in a big way. But that's entirely vote buying. And we know that. Ontario Liberals will create 5 new provincial parks. Well, isn't it going to be so nice? That's not vote buying. That's just stupid. Stephen Del Duca announces Liberals will ban handguns province-wide. Are they going to ban drones too? Because in my community, some moron from Michigan took a drone with a bag full of handguns and he tried to fly them over the St. Clair River. I'm dumbfounded. This is the stupidest issue in all of the country. If you look at the statistics, people who commit illegal offenses with firearms aren't legal gun owners. It's just not happening, and it never has happened. Absolutely stupid. Ontario Liberals will face systemic racism in schools and policing. Well, that's going to give the Liberal class a whole new job to do. And look at this.
It's already happening, and we've seen the result of that in Ottawa, where they beat the crap out of people.
Yeah.
I've already addressed that whole systemic racism issue and the way that it has twisted the fabric of reality within policing and has taken the focus off community policing, and they've placed it on progressive policing, which is centered around equity, not equal application of the law, but equity, which is what they think is supposed to be an equal outcome, which means they don't apply the law equally. They apply it unequally, giving special preference to one group and being harder and punitive on other groups. It's not right, because we're talking about justice, the application of the rule of law. And what's going on with this whole, there's systemic racism within the police services. Dangerous.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous. It's even look at now, all of these liberal clowns have done more damage to police forces over the past 10 years than anyone ever in history. And that's despite my criticisms of policing in Canada now. Anyway, that's my my rant on the Liberal Party of Ontario. I just felt the need to kind of go through the website.
And Doug Ford, the Conservatives, the NDP, they're all out there trying to buy your votes.
Oh, bad.
In a big way. Doug Ford, with this budget that was just introduced, massive deficit spending. He's just buying your votes with your own money. And your children's money, and your grandchildren's money, and your great-great-grandchildren's money.
And your great-great-grandchildren.
We'll get into more details on that in future episodes, I think.
Yeah, we didn't plan on doing that. It just Rick started going off on free tires, and then I got pissed off.
And the next thing you know, we're running down a completely different road.
Exactly. I thought it was fun, though. It was good to sidetrack. And it's fitting because the writ just dropped in Ontario today, so there is going to be a new election happening. And, we'll have to wait and see. But,
yeah,
I'm tired of the vote buying. You're not going to buy me. No, sir. In fact,
so what do you think? What do you make of this whole federal Conservative Party leadership race, where they have approved or verified 6 candidates, but 2 of them who say that they met the deadline, met the requirements to be verified, they aren't allowing them to be candidates. They've disqualified them. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that they're inside the Conservative Party itself. Their administration is clearly something weird going on there, and there's been something weird going on there for a long time. It has a lot more to do with the Liberal or the Conservative Party deciding that anybody they don't like simply just will be ignored and not tolerated. Like, if you look at how Jim Karahalios, the leader of New Blue Ontario, if you look at him and how easily they threw him in the garbage, which was baffling to say the least. They just want one type of person in there. They just want people who are going to toe the party line. They don't want anybody who's eccentric or anybody who has a different way of thinking.
Well, I think this exposes a serious problem within the Conservative Party of Canada. I think it's a problem that's been there for a long time. And I think
for a long time for sure.
I think it's more sinister even than people realize. It runs deep. It runs dark. These are your 6 candidates here who have been verified. So you have Pierre Poilievre, Roman Baber, Leslyn Lewis, Jean Charest, Patrick Brown, and oh man, who's that 6th guy? The unknown candidate.
The unknown candidate.
Scott Aitchison. Aitchison.
Okay.
Aitchison. Yeah. He's the 6th guy. But there were 3 others. Joel Etienne, a commercial lawyer from Toronto, Joseph Bourgault, who we had on this program, and Graham Abramson.
Yeah.
Grant Abraham from British Columbia. He's from BC's a consultant. Anyway, they're not going to appear on the ballot because even though they said they met the party's requirements, there's a nomination committee, leadership candidate nomination committee, and they say they didn't. How can that be? Well, I spoke today with some people involved with a couple of the campaigns, and it looks like the party basically moved the goalposts at the last minute and may not even have informed the candidate hopefuls of the changes. So they needed to raise $300,000 in order to qualify and then submit that money to the party. So they did that. And in the case of Joseph Bourgault, I know that he raised about $360,000 plus. So he was well over the required amount.
Yeah, it was like 365,000. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, because we saw information come from him before the deadline saying that they had met the requirements and they thought they were good to go, only to then find out that they had been disqualified. So the question is, what's really going on? Well, the people we spoke to, a lot of them who have concerns about this, say that there's corruption within the party and that they're really lynching social conservatives, in particular, conservatives that may have a pro-life view.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want that. And they are, we know that there has been sort of a takeover of the party on the left by red Tories.
Orange Tories.
Yeah, you call them orange Tories.
Yeah.
Meaning that they're as far left as the NDP.
Exactly.
Which may very well be the case. I'm going to suggest something even more sinister.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we've witnessed over the years is a takeover of the Conservative Party by liberals, not red Tories, just liberals, and maybe even the Liberal and NDP government or parties. Okay? They infiltrated the party. They have their own people in there. not just pushing the platform to the left, but taking over the party to destroy the Conservative Party. So you don't have any, the people running the party right now are not conservatives. They are liberals. Case in point, Jean Charest, who was the premier of Quebec, liberal premier of Quebec, and he's bounced back and forth between the parties, but he's a liberal. And he's running for the leadership of the Conservative Party. He does not represent the conservative arm of the party at all, social or fiscal, in my view. He's just a liberal. He's just a conservative by convenience and maybe by strategy. Because when you position or plant your people inside the party, I think, the Liberal Party is so big in Canada that I think they could afford to do it, and they have done it. I think they've taken political operatives and they've said, you guys go over there. And I think that it is that coordinated, that planned. I think that they have intentionally done this to destroy the Conservative Party and try to destroy the conservative base in Canada. That's why you ended up seeing Maxime Bernier form the People's Party of Canada. Because it's inexplicable. You can't understand it if you're a conservative and you've been inside the party. You're like, how could this have happened? How the party left me? I didn't leave the party. How? Why? How come there aren't more conservatives? Why isn't there more conservatism within and conservative ideology within the Conservative Party? It's because the party's been taken over. The Conservative Party of Canada is not conservative anymore. They're just an extension of the Liberals and the NDP. There are only minor differences between the three at this point. Only minor differences. You get a little more fiscal conservatism within the CPC at the federal level, but socially, they're all about the same. They all adhere to the same wokeism, and it's terrible. And you want to talk about preserving freedom? They're throwing the word freedom around. I don't trust them. Where have they been for the last 2 years? They're all woke, with the exception of a small portion of the Conservative Party that are real conservatives and represent, to some degree, the group that brought Harper to power. But they're being shunned, pushed out. That's Grant Abraham. That's Joseph Bourgault. They don't want them. They want they can't let them win because their agenda is liberalism. Their agenda is wokeism. Their agenda is political correctness. And they will not have it. The Conservative Party is lost. This, because this is going to divide the party even further. This will further erode the CPC base. It's going to push more of these CPC members into the open and waiting arms of Maxime Bernier and the PPC for the next federal election. It will push the PPC to new heights because this is more of the same crap that we've seen over and over again from the CPC, from the Conservative Party of Canada. The same crap that pushed Jim Carhalios out. The same crap that pushed Maxime Bernier out. The same crap that's pushed many conservatives right out of the party. And for full transparency, I used to be a member of the CPC. They call here all the time looking for money. I'm still on their mailing list. I get all their messages. I don't give them a penny because they don't represent, obviously, my points of view. This is just an example of why. There is no Conservative Party within the Conservative Party of Canada anymore, folks. But people will continue to vote for them just because they have the brand. But there is, they say they're cheating. Here is the other thing that blows my mind. I did not realize this. You were asking what happens to that money, Brendan. You know what happens to their money that, like Joseph Bourgault, forked over $360,000 to the party. They keep it. And he doesn't get to run. Yeah.
Thank you for your very generous donation. However, we are unable to accept your application at this time. We do appreciate your time and your effort. Now go away.
Tell me, is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Because people stepped up and donated. The same with Grant Abraham. A huge effort was underway. They went straight to the people, not to big corporations, not to big donors, right?
Yeah.
They needed to get that guy over the hump, and they went to people, just the regular people. And what we're talking about here too, and this is a big issue for the CPC, truckers, people who supported the convoy. Joseph Borgo supported the truckers and the convoy. So did Grant. These are people who represent real Canadians, middle-class people, truckers, freedom fighters. Those are the people they're pushing out. They don't want them. So they went, there was a big push to get money donated to get Grant over the 300,000. They did it. Only to be told, sorry, you're disqualified. And they can do it, I guess, because they can disqualify anybody for just about any reason and just change the rules. I'm not privy to all. I don't know all the rules. We'll have to get more information as it comes out. But that's as it was described to me today.
I found the rules. We can go over that in our spare time or whatever. It's a lot of black and white reading. More interestingly, I tried looking to see who in the hell is a part of this leadership review committee. It's not public information.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to know.
So why would you, you know what, Brendan, why would anybody vote for these clowns?
That's some deep state crap right there. There's this shadowy back group of people, and they decide who gets to run and who doesn't get to run.
And if we know that they're excluding these candidates, especially these two, I think the third guy didn't quite make the financial commitment.
Yeah.
But the other two did. And if they're not being allowed to run because we know what they stand for, which is support for truckers, support for freedom, support for constitutional rights, individual rights and freedoms, support for the charter, all of these things that we're fighting for here on this program, freedom of speech, right?
Yep.
That's what those guys were standing for. And they had the backing of the very people who went to Ottawa and were fighting for freedom there. And the Conservative Party of Canada said, no way. Why would you vote for any of them? The 6 who are sitting there right now, even now for me, because of what's happened, all 6 of them are suspect now. Because if they're acceptable, why? Why? Why are they okay? And these two guys who are fighting for these other issues, which we hold near and dear, and are probably the most important issues today to fight for, why are the other 6 okay, but these guys aren't? You know, Roman Baber apparently was supposed to be out there. You know, he's been fighting for, on the mandates issue and vaccines and all of that stuff, right? But I think he's fairly left wing on some of the other issues, the social issues. So for whatever reason, they've allowed him in. Maybe it's because they have a high profile. They don't want too much backlash. Maybe it's a strategy thing. Who knows? But if I'm now suspect of all 6 of them, I've been suspect of the whole damn party. They get in, they tell you one thing, and then they do something else. Jason Kenney, Premier of Alberta, Conservative, one day he's locking everybody down, throwing pastors in jail. Then he's coming out just recently saying he's calling on the federal government to get rid of the vaccine passport. Which way is it, man? Like, you don't know what that guy's going to do from one day to the next. Same in Ontario with the Conservative Premier Doug Ford. Says one thing, does another, flip-flops. You never know what he's going to get. And right now he's talking freedom again because there's an election coming up. But the guy has given these massive powers to the cops. He's locked people down, shut businesses down. It just goes on and on. You can't trust them.
I think. I mean, I've reached out to Roman plenty of times for comment with no response. He did take my email, however, and did take the liberty of making sure that I receive all of his advertisements. So that's just lovely.
He was in town. I tried to go over the one night, but I was off at another news event that night, and I missed him. And I'm sure I probably would have been able to get an interview with him. We'll catch up with him at some point.
Yeah. I don't think that this is a smart move for him at this point. In all honesty, I don't think that he's going to have the renown to win, and I really don't think the debates in these leadership conventions have a lot of pull. In most cases, they don't. I mean, Andrew Scheer won it by virtue signaling to the milk cartel.
Well, I
but
think
more often than not, though, that doesn't decide on the vote. I don't think.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I said more often than not, I don't think that the debates in this leadership race are going to really pull. I think that the cards are already drawn. I think most conservatives who will be voting in on this already have their minds made up. And Roman Baber probably won't be in the cards. Just saying.
They're steering it. They're controlling it as much as they can. I think they've already decided who the leader is going to be, and there are deals being made, even as we speak.
Big time.
And they wanted these guys excluded. I think probably because they were too damn honest.
Yeah.
And they were fighting for the people.
And I do know that when it comes to Leslyn Lewis and Pierre Poilievre, these are the only two MPs sitting in House. And that they won't be able to just make them go away as easy. And so, despite what they might think of it, or just what may happen, because they are sitting in the House, it's way better to have a leader who's already elected.
And I know Derek Sloan is kind of in the mix as well. He's supposed to be on our show tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. He was a federal member of parliament, now running as the leader of the Ontario Party in Ontario in this upcoming provincial election. Yep. He's supposed to be on here tomorrow night for an interview. And I think that if things don't pan out provincially, he'll reset his sights at the federal level. And we'll see how that plays out. So we're going to have him in the mix. We're going to have the PPC in the mix. I don't know really what to expect, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Derek Sloan would even emerge with his own party, because he was trying to get a federal party organized before.
Yes, he was. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But as far as political strategy goes with Roman, I think he probably would have been way more impactful playing the provincial game still. That's just my thoughts. You talk a lot about running into no man's land to get killed. Well, that's a prime example of what I would call that.
I don't think we've heard the last of Joseph Bourgault, though.
No.
He seemed like a pretty genuine guy. He's
I
also
really
very
appreciate his sentiments. I appreciate him coming on the show. And you know what? When we had that discussion with him, I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I walked away with something.
Mm-hmm.
And when you meet people like that, that's what makes doing this show worth it. It's when you meet interesting people and you get a chance to walk away. Like you'll never be able to learn the things that he talked about with us in some university classroom. Like those are things that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.
He's a successful businessman, built up a farm machinery company out in Western Canada, very well known out there, less well known in the East and in Quebec, but very successful, smart guy. And I think he has a genuine love of the country. So I don't think we've heard the last of Joseph Bourgault. I hope we haven't, because he seemed to be a patriot, and he seemed to have a lot of integrity. That was the sense that I had. I think it's extremely unfortunate that they're not going to allow him to run. And this is going to do even more damage to a party that has lost its way because they've been infiltrated. They've been taken over by a bunch of liberals. And I don't mean like red Tories. I mean, they've been taken over by the liberals. They're no different. Very little difference. I think the differences that you see are really just window dressing to make people think they have a choice. But you vote for any of those three parties, and you're just going to get more of the same. Period. And that ain't a good thing.
Heck no. Just a moment. I'm looking at something here.
Yep. While you do that, I'll just remind people that you can donate at freedomreporters.com. You can click on the YouTube, Facebook, Rumble descriptions. Go straight to the donation page that way. And if you do donate, it helps us cover our expenses, which are more substantial than you might think. Somebody asked if it's free to subscribe over at Rumble. Yes, it is. But we actually have to pay fees over there to run the live streams and to have the videos rank. So there are fees there. There are other fees that we have to pay for as well. Even on Odyssey, there's a fee, which is understandable. To be on Gab, you can't live stream there, but we are setting it up so that we can repost these long form videos, shows over there on Gab. We're already up on BitChute. So there are costs associated with all that and with the website that we're setting up as well. So that's what the money is going for, and to offset other costs as well. Hardware, software, people. The list goes on. So we appreciate everything that people have done so far, because we have had some pretty generous people do some things to help us out. So appreciate that. Did you find what you were looking for there, sir?
No, I'm trying to find out who in the heck is a part of this shadow government leadership appointee committee, and there's no information.
But let's move on to Joe Biden, shall we? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because Joe Biden, I just want to point out again how just in the last week or two, he's just undermined his own credibility again on the international stage. He's become a bit of a laughing stock. So here's Sky News Australia with this is just how they view him. I want to run this so that people get an idea of what this guy, how he's viewed.
I just wanted to check in with the leader of the free world, who is speaking parenthetically. Apparently that's a word now.
Parenthetically, if you think about it, what was the reason why we led the world beginning around 1905, 6, and 7, and 8?
What is the Sesame Street number of the day?
1905, 6, and 7, and 8.
You have to laugh. I mean, he's just blurting out random numbers. Not even an auto cue can save this dude from himself. And don't miss the Rita Panahi show tomorrow night at 9 p.m. where I will have a Biden extravaganza. And I defy anybody to watch tomorrow night's segment and conclude that Biden is fit to be president of the local bowls club, let alone holding the most powerful office in the world.
It's just
I've ever told you about corn pop. I told you about corn pop.
It's like almost every day. It's another one. Right?
I defeated corn pop with the chain. I used to work at the pool. The pool was right over there. Corn pop.
And then there was the whole kleptocracy thing. You couldn't say the word kleptocracy.
Yeah, we played that live. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway.
He just gives up.
He's dangerous. He's the guy with his finger on the button. But that's because he's not really in charge. He's just a figurehead. Just a figurehead. A symbol. A puppet. I think, you know who's really in charge? Obama. I think Obama has a lot more influence and sway than anybody knows. Or maybe we do.
Absolutely. And
This
you know
is
what?
like his third term.
This is going to tie in with our first story of the evening, where we were talking about this Ministry of Truth set by the Department of Homeland Security. Is that around the same time, Obama is on this campaign against disinformation.
Yeah.
All ties in.
And the timing is not an accident. In fact,
No.
Hillary Clinton has been out there as well, pumping the same censorship, pro-censorship messaging to back up this whole DHS, Department of Homeland Security Disinformation Governance Board. Pumping it up, promoting it, telling us that they're going to protect people's free speech through censorship. Jesus. People believe it. People buy it. Oh my God.
I'm not buying it, but
psyop.
I'm not buying it, but they're going to pay for it with my money, whether I like it or not.
It's just like Justin Trudeau, man.
Yeah, big
We're
time.
invoking the Emergencies Act to protect your rights. Well, we take them all away.
What do you need those for anyway? If the more rights you have, the more opportunity you have to be racist and misogynist and a Nazi. Don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need those.
Speaking of Nazis and the situation in Ukraine, over the last few days, we've seen reports like this as well, which I think are very disturbing, but not in the way that you might think after watching this. NATO has, I guess, on a few occasions, multiple occasions, they've scrambled jets to intercept Russian planes. So this is the way it's being played on CNN.
NATO had to scramble fighter jets this week. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, we've all just in the press corps a short time ago received a statement from NATO's Allied Air Command that was a bit surprising. They said that since Tuesday, they have had to scramble fighter jets multiple times, both over the Baltic and the Black Sea region, because of unidentified aircraft approaching. Now, these unidentified aircraft, they say, are Russians, and the typical Russian aircraft profile is to not announce themselves, not to signal with any transponders, just to fly with no flight plan. And what NATO says, and I want to get it exactly right for everybody, that since Tuesday, they've scrambled fighter jets from Poland, Denmark, France, Spain, Romania, and the UK, both over the Baltic and the Black Sea, when these Russian aircraft have approached. There's no indication at this point any U.S. aircraft scrambled, and no indication that the Russians entered NATO or allied airspace. But it's worth pointing out that we have not seen these kinds of flight paths for some weeks. We've asked NATO about it frequently, and they say they had not seen the Russians really flying this way, and now apparently they have.
Yeah. It's a big deal because Russian officials, including the president, have described this as a conflict with NATO. So to see Russian aircraft testing, in effect, NATO response times and so on in airspace, listen, it presents dangers too for potential escalation. Barbara Starr at the Pentagon, thanks so much.
Put your NATO hat on, your former NATO hat on for a second. I just want to read this. NATO fighter jets stationed in both the Baltic and Black Sea regions scrambled multiple times over the last 4 days to track and intercept Russian aircraft near Alliance airspace, according to a statement posted by NATO's Allied Air Command. What are the conversations in NATO about just the risks? The longer this goes on, the more Russian planes are in the air near NATO airspace. Dangerous.
It is very dangerous. I mean, a war in Europe is very dangerous, and that's what we're facing here. And there's the constant worry about escalation, and escalation can happen in one of two ways. One, we cross a line that would lead to a direct confrontation, military confrontation between Russian and NATO forces, or more likely, the Russians cross the line, either by targeting our resupply of the Ukrainians on NATO territory, or indeed in the airspace of NATO territory, whether that's in the Baltic Sea or, frankly, a whole variety of other places that is possible. And we lack the kind of communication that we used to have, where our militaries would, on a regular basis, talk to each other. The Russians aren't particularly receptive to having that conversation. So this is ripe for the possibility of a war by miscalculation. I think NATO is looking at ways, how do we avoid getting dragged into a conflict that we don't want at this time to be dragged into, but at the same time make clear to the Russians that if they cross a line, the consequence is going to be severe. That's the discussion that's happening in Brussels today, and will continue for as long as this war continues.
As long as this war continues. Ambassador Golder, as long as it does. We appreciate your insights, sir. We'll talk again. Thank you.
They don't want to get dragged into a war that they don't want to get dragged into.
This seems very dangerous. Oh, a war in Europe is very dangerous. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. Thank you.
This, I think, is pure propaganda. Why do I say that?
Yeah, why do you say that?
Because these Russian jets never entered NATO airspace. They were entered in international airspace. They're playing this up in a way that makes people think that there was some impending threat. They had to scramble NATO jets to intercept Russian jets that were coming close to NATO airspace. Well, that in itself is not really that unusual. And they're slanting this in a way that the language to make it sound like it's a really big deal. And there's a really big threat that these jets had to be intercepted. They make it clear, even in the graphic, that they didn't come into NATO airspace, right? But I guess they're close. I don't think they actually did intercept them, if you really listen to what they say. So there wasn't like a dogfight. I don't even know if they had visual contact.
It's very interesting that they had no problems with scrambling a bunch of jets somewhere in a foreign land, but somebody hijacks a plane in September 11th in 2001. Where the hell were all of those jets to be scrambled then? Which is an entirely different topic. I understand that, but my point being, they're all on their toes here, but something bad happens in the homeland, and they go, "Oh well."
The point to be made here is this is saber rattling. Mm-hmm. This is another attempt to portray Putin as a madman who is sending his jets up to be provocative, to try to provoke a response from NATO, when in reality, in my estimation, everything I've seen has been NATO provoking Russia, NATO pushing further and further over country after country, taking in more and more countries and making them NATO members, and pushing right into Ukraine, and then started to talk about making Ukraine a NATO country right on Russia's doorstep, where they were going to station weapons. They've been the ones provoking Russia. They want to go to war with Russia. There are certain elements within the U.S. government, within NATO, and even within other Western countries. They have wanted to go to war with Russia since at least 2014, if not before. They want to. This talk is all about that, to make it seem like Russia is provoking NATO, when in reality, this is the provocation. You're looking at it right here on the screen. The provocation isn't the jets. The provocation is the media information being distributed, the propaganda, to build up more public fear and more public support for more weapons to be sent to Ukraine. We're already up to, I think it's $32 billion from the United States so far, and Biden today calling for even more, and more politicians calling for even more. This is the dangerous thing. And we've seen within the last week attacks using NATO-supplied weapons, attacks launched by the Ukrainian military, some of which are Nazi battalions, undeniable, acknowledged, admitted by the mainstream media, CTV News, even within this past week, which we showed you, even as the Pentagon press secretary, John Kirby, broke into tears in an emotional outburst and still denied the existence of Nazi battalions, real Nazis, not fake Nazis, the real Nazis like this guy.
And
right?
not just that language there, that's watered down language there, but if you read through the article, it does stipulate actual Nazis.
And this
was
is
posted last week.
So I'm losing my train of thought. The NATO keeps provoking these people. We're on the, I don't want to say this stuff. I would like to be able to support my country. But I don't want World War III. And where was I? Yes. Attacks have been launched using NATO weapons supplied by frickin' Canada and the United States on Russia now, onto Russian soil, which is exactly what Russia has been saying they were afraid of. So you've got NATO-trained troops, some of them Nazis, trained by Canadian military and other NATO countries, NATO-trained troops in Ukraine, launching attacks on Russia from Ukraine using NATO-supplied weapons. And then propaganda like this, making it look like there's this huge threat from these Russian jets flying in international airspace somewhere in the vicinity of NATO airspace, where they scramble some NATO jets and then play it up in the media as though it's a really big deal. We need to maybe do something about it, at the same time as Biden is calling for even more billions of dollars to be sent over to Ukraine to prolong this so that they can fight for democracy to the very last drop of Ukrainian blood. The whole thing is sick. And this is all coming from a U.S. president who clearly has had economic ties through his anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine previously as vice president. And his son clearly has had ties and employment worth millions and millions of dollars. And this is a guy who's telling us that they're over there protecting democracy for the world in what was already known to be the third most corrupt country on the globe. And people are buying this. And Canadians, I mean, I walk around my neighborhood, I see people with flags out in front of their houses, half Canadian, half Ukrainian. What are you supporting? War. That's what you're supporting by flying that. That's what it means. I'm not in favor of this war. This is wrong. We needed negotiation. Never had to happen. We've talked about it before. This is all disgusting. They're making no effort to find a mediated, negotiated end to this. And it could end today, right now, easily. The solutions are all right on in front of us. But our leaders on our side, I'm certain of it, are not interested. I think some of the politicians at the lower levels don't get it. They're too stupid, too ignorant, too uneducated, don't know
programmed for the current thing.
And they just go along. They're whipped by the party to vote, and they do. The truth of the matter is, folks, we are at war with Russia right now. We are. This is a proxy war being fought in Ukraine with a combination of Ukrainian forces and even people who have gone over there to volunteer. Don't tell me there aren't U.S. troops over there.
Oh, there's
maybe not
Canadians.
Officially, but we know there are Canadians fighting. We know there are U.S. citizens fighting, ex-military, or maybe whatever.
There was a lieutenant general in Canada who resigned on April 4th, even though he was under allegations of sexual misconduct. He ends up where? In Ukraine.
This is bad news. And this is escalating. It's getting worse and worse. The media is spinning it. We're being subjected to massive amounts of censorship. Getting quality, complete information out of there is very difficult, if not impossible. So we don't really know what's going on the ground. But yet we're spending and sending over billions of dollars in mostly weapons, many of which, especially on the US side and the Canadian side too, we don't really know where they're ending up. And we don't know where they'll end up after the war is over. Many of them likely sold in the black market to terror groups or who knows where. I don't know. Either do they. Either do you.
They're not even thinking that far ahead, and these are the people who are supposed to think that far ahead. I don't know, Rick. I talk to
freaking propaganda.
I talk to several people a week who have eaten this stuff. There's no talking to them about it. They go, "Oh, Putin's a tyrant. He's not listening. They're trying to settle. No, they are not trying to settle anything." Insane. Insanity.
It is insanity. So today, Biden did tour the Lockheed Martin facility in Alabama. Let's bring this up. We'll see if I can get you the feed here. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Almost there. We'll just duck in and pick them up. Here we go. So this is a little bit of cheerleading, a little bit of, patting on the back to workers who work in the military facility there in Troy, Alabama. And today he calls for additional support. So let's let it roll and see what he says.
And every worker in this facility and every American taxpayer is directly contributing to the case for freedom. And that's something we can all be incredibly proud of, in my view. Last week, I sent Congress, if you excuse a point of personal privilege, talking like an old senator, but sent a supplemental budget, a fancy way of saying we need more money. Make sure the United States can continue to send weapons directly to the front lines of freedom in Ukraine, and to continue to provide economic and humanitarian assistance to help the Ukrainian people. I urge the Congress to pass this funding quickly to help Ukraine continue to succeed against Russian aggression, just as they did when they won the Battle of Kyiv. And to make sure the United States and our allies can replenish our own stocks of weapons, replace what we've sent to Ukraine. As I said from the beginning, this fight is not going to be cheap. But caving to aggression would even be more costly. We either back the Ukrainian people as they defend their country, or we stand by as Russia continues its atrocities and aggression. I know what the answer is, and I think you all do too. I bet I know what the answer to this plan is. There's something else here that to be understood. Being the arsenal of democracy also means good paying jobs for American workers. In Alabama and the states all across America where defense equipment is manufactured and assembled, 265 people here at this plant are directly employed working on the Javelin program. All told, Lockheed Martin has brought nearly 3,000 jobs to Alabama. The armed forces of the United States of America will continue to be the best armed, most capable fighting force in the history of the world. In order to do that, we have to make sure our vital defense supplies are getting the inputs and supplies they need to produce and protect and provide the full capacity.
Well, at least it's good for the economy.
The military-industrial complex has always been good for the economy, Rick. That's what that movie Canadian Bacon was all about. Do you remember
It's
that?
only good for the economy if you win.
Yeah.
It's only good for the economy if you come out on top, and then you and I've never really touched on this on the show, but you want to talk about supporting the U.S. dollar as the world's default current reserve currency?
Mm-hmm.
It's because the United States has nukes and oil. And all of that is slipping away because of this war in Ukraine. They still have nukes, but the energy dominance, the deal with Saudi Arabia to make other countries pay for energy with the US dollar, it's all slipping away. This is not going nearly as smoothly as people are being told. And you can see it at the gas pump, and you're feeling it at the grocery store when you go to pay for things.
Mm-hmm.
And we're being told that we have to pay the price because we have to defend democracy in a country that has a puppet propped up by the United States in charge as the apparent president, an actor. It's a joke.
Fighter of corn pop.
And people are dying.
That's
I bring up all that stuff. I showed you the thing with CNN and the jets. That's just saber rattling. That's propaganda. That's what we're getting. And people are buying into it. People watch that crap on CNN. And they come to the conclusion that Russia is being aggressive. What is aggressive? Is there any aggression in sending billions and billions, like 30, 40, 50 billion dollars in military aid from various Western NATO countries into Ukraine to then have some of those weapons used to launch attacks directly onto Russian soil, not Ukrainian, Russian soil, which is what the Russians have been worried about all along, saying you can't have NATO in here. You can't have military NATO weapons in here because you're right on our doorstep. And that might result in an attack on our country and be which represents a true existential threat to Russia. Well, we've seen confirmed a number of attacks now along the border with weapons to launch right into Russia. And there have been U.S. officials who have come out to say that Ukraine has the right to do that.
Also, U.S. officials that have stated they're going to fight Russia so that we don't have to. And Tucker Carlson highlighted that last night. I thought that was worthy of say. I just spent 2 minutes looking for the clip for it, but I can't find it. But
we didn't have to fight Russia to begin with.
Yeah.
I really believe we didn't have to. Putin didn't go into Ukraine because he's crazy and woke up one day and just made a decision or on a whim decided to go invade a country. He did it for a reason. I'm not saying it was right. Ukraine is a sovereign country, technically, although it's been under the control of. Okay. So this whole thing is so dangerous. By allowing all of this to happen, by facilitating it, we are involved. And I think Russia, Putin, will only take so much. If you're being bombed and attacked with weapons provided by the United States and Canada and other countries like United Kingdom, if a bomb drops on your house, there's the guy who fired it. But then there's also the guy who provided it and told the guy who fired it, why don't you get over there and fight those guys? Yeah, here's a bomb. You know what you could do, eh? You could aim it over in that direction, light the fuse, and let her rip.
Well,
and then it says right on the side of it, NATO. And you find the piece of shrapnel or piece of the bomb. It says NATO or Canada right on the side of it.
Or Lockheed Martin.
Right. So, And not only that, it's not like they're hiding it, right?
No.
It's like, we're going to send all these weapons over. Screw
It's all
you,
public.
Putin.
And in war, munitions manufacturing sites are always going to be considered legitimate military targets, regardless of civilians are there.
And so this isn't like Syria.
No.
This is Ukraine. This is right on the border of Russia. Now it's spilling over into Russia.
Yeah.
So every day that goes by and we get more and more of this, we get closer and closer to an escalated conflict, possibly a world war, possibly even a nuclear conflict. And I know some people say that's not going to happen, but do you know how fast that could happen? Like that. Think about it, folks, before you start giving Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden your permission to do these things. Nobody's talking.
No. They're turning their backs on it. And despite what people have told me today, there is no conversation that they want to have. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to talk. The West doesn't want to talk. The West has had their sights set on Putin since they made him the bad guy in the last Trump election. Well, not the last, the second last Trump election. We've been set on this trajectory in 2016. It's very clear. And all of the actors who are behind it, it's Hillary Clinton, Obama, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, all of these same actors are involved in that.
I told you I saw this back in like 2014, 2015, heading into the 2016 presidential election. The propaganda heading right into that election was ramping up. You had that fake gas attack with the white helmets in Syria, right? A false attack, a false flag, trying to drag the West, drag the United States in through this propaganda. We know what it was now. I was going to get into more of this propaganda stuff. That the press secretary for the Pentagon, John Kirby, this week getting emotional. He was practically crying, choking up during his news conference. Great actor. Okay, that was for me a babies and incubators moment. Where remember during those public hearings where the Bush administration was trying to justify going into Iraq, and then they hired this public relations firm, and they had the young girl testify and talk about the incubators and having the babies, Iraqi soldiers removing the babies from the incubator so that the incubators in Kuwait could be taken away and the babies left to die. Mm-hmm. And we now know that was propaganda. It wasn't true at all. But that was one of the main talking points, one of the main things that was used to convince the public that the U.S. military and the other allied countries needed to go in and do something because they were pushing people's emotional buttons.
Yep.
Same thing. Oh, if they keep doing this to us over and over and over again. Meanwhile, do they really want to talk and negotiate an end? No, I don't think so, folks. I don't think so. I don't see any evidence of that here at all.
No.
So I'm opposed. I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to sending weapons. I say no. You want to send food? No problem. You want to send other kinds of aid? No problem. And if you want to send military aid, you better show me that you've exhausted negotiation, that you really do want to talk. And I can illustrate again here. I won't do it now, but I can illustrate for everybody that has not happened.
Mm-hmm. I think we should do that for tomorrow.
Perhaps we will. I don't want to keep flogging a dead horse, but this is an ongoing issue and it keeps on escalating. The mainstream media is not giving it its proper, giving it its due or its a proper level of attention.
That's right.
I think, People need to know. People
Absolutely.
need to know.
They do.
So we will
Well-
keep tabs on this. Can we do one other thing before we sign off tonight, Brendan? Can we just pull up James Top and update people on where he is at?
Let's go and check out the Topinator at CanadaMarches.ca. So, James Top, all around good guy, all around Canadian hero, all around infantryman.
True patriot. Trying to bring Canadians together. James Top marching across Canada from Vancouver all the way to the War Memorial in Ottawa. I believe he's still in Manitoba. We're going to find out where he is. We're going to the James Top tracker to find out where he is on the country. He's walking all the way across, marching across the country
against tyranny.
Amazing what he's doing, and
I
picking
concur.
up support in every community he touches, and spreading Canadian love.
Let's check this out. This is day 73.
He is awesome. 73 days on the
May
road.
the 3rd, and it is day 73 here, approximately 63 kilometers west of Winnipeg. And that's where we're going to be going tonight to do a meet and greet at Sturgeon Community Center. Thank you. So I got a team with me. Help me out. So we'll see you tonight. And in the meantime, we're going to be starting off a great morning because this atmospheric event that has happened is that the sky is cleared and the sun has come out. So it's a special occasion. Excuse me, I'm excited. So if you see us on the road and decide to say hi, please be careful. You are traveling at 120 kilometers an hour or thereabouts on Trans-Canada. We're going a little bit slower. So slow down, use caution, and do what you're going to do or meet the RV. And I've said enough. Have a good day.
Oh, my legs are buckling.
And that is the day 73 update from James Top. And let's take a gander at where he is now.
There's the live tracker. And of course, James is trying to raise awareness about the issues surrounding mandates and freedom and the charter. And he's doing it in a way that is positive.
So he is just going to be another day or two to Winnipeg. So he has almost entirely cleared Manitoba, heading into the western section of Ontario. It's going to be all very rocky and hilly terrain there. He'll also be contending with the weather that Lake Superior brings and all the black flies, mosquitoes, and every other horrific bug that has ever come out of northern Ontario. So he is a brave soul. But when we had him on the program, he did say if he can make it over the Rocky Mountains, he can get through anything. And I believe in him.
Yeah, I believe in him too. He's going to make it for sure.
Yes.
Great man, great Canadian. Very exciting stuff. So we'll keep on tracking James Top at CanadaMarches.ca. We'll have him back on the show very soon to do another live in-person interview, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to do that. I think what he's doing is incredible, and I think he is a true Canadian hero. We talked about heroes earlier. Well, there's another one right there. James Top.
I have to say, he looks like he has lost a remarkable amount of weight since his journey. So, like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
That's got to be tough on the body, man.
It's a long way to walk. And he's been putting in anywhere from 35 to 50 kilometers a day. That's a lot of walking every single day. And most days it seems like it's closer to 50. Because as I tune in and I look and he tells you what he's doing. Most days it's like 45, 50 kilometers. That's a lot of hoof in it. And he went right over those mountains. Right now he's on, on flatter ground, but man, he's going to come into Ontario and big challenges there, facing all kinds of weather, doing it, first in the winter, then in the spring. And then by the time he gets to Ottawa, the weather probably will turn very warm. He'll be walking in the heat. Yeah. So what a journey. Epic.
Very epic.
Incredible
With the heat,
guy.
and with the heat, you have huge problems of possible dehydration. Which could lead to
Yeah.
all
And so
kinds
when
of
he comes through, I know a lot of people are supporting him by giving him accommodations, food, helping him as he makes, different stops along the way. And in different communities, people are coming out to march with him. They're holding special events for him in various towns. Lots of different ways to support James Topp, and you can find out more about him and check in on his progress anytime at canadamarches.ca. canadamarches.ca. So we encourage everybody to go there, show their support, keep tabs on him. And James, we salute you. And we'll be checking in on you on a regular basis, as we always do. Looking forward to having him back on the show.
And God bless you, Sue reading. That is awesome. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
See, this is Canadians coming together to help
I
Canadians.
personally, I can't wait to meet him in person.
Yes.
Shake his hand.
But in either
Amazing.
case, with
Yeah.
that being said, we have covered a wide range of topics today. It's been an absolute pleasure being here with everybody. And you, the host of the show, Rick Walker, and I'm your co-host, Brendan Kennedy, for Maverick News, and I will see you tomorrow on Censorship Week.
And I am, Censorship Week, and I am Rick Walker. You're watching the Freedom Reporters on the Maverick News channel during Censorship Week, because we've been banned off all of our main channels on YouTube for at least but tomorrow will be 5 more days, counting down to getting our subscribers on YouTube back. But until then, join us on Facebook, on Rumble, on Odyssey, I think maybe on Daily Motion. We'll be reposting on CloudHub and BitChute. So there are other places to find us. Don't despair. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Catch y'all